Hello. I am going to present to you 3 foods that I think are going to be on the menu in 2035. Now, let me just say that some of you right now may think that some of these foods are unappetizing, maybe even gross. But give them a close look because they are definitely on the horizon. Now, as Chuck pointed out, the reason why I'm here is because I ate a hamburger. I didn't even eat an entire hamburger. I ate a single bite of a hamburger. It was a roughly $70,000 bite out of a $330,000 hamburger. It was quite possibly the most expensive bite in human history. The burger has been called by many, many different names: in vitro meat, lab meat, synthetic meat, schmeat. It's also been called the Frankenburger and the Google burger because Sergey Brin funded the research that this man, Mark Post, a Dutch scientist, spent the past 5 years working on. Now, whatever you call it, it is the first hamburger ever created without slaughtering a cow. You might ask yourself, why is it that Josh Schonwald from Evanston gets the first bite of lab-grown meat, and why not Andrew Zimmern or Anthony Bourdain, or for that matter, some ordinary guy in London, because that's where the burger was served? Well, I am an unabashed enthusiast of this idea of lab meat. In my book, The Taste of Tomorrow, had a chapter titled The Guilt-Free Heart Attack Fighting Superburger. And back in 2009, I actually went to the Netherlands, met with Mark Post in hopes of trying the burger. It was not possible then. The reason why I was so excited to have this opportunity and so curious about this burger is because A, I love hamburgers, and B, I came to the realization that we have to do something about our meat appetite. Now, these statistics are probably not unfamiliar to many of you. 70% of the Earth's arable land is devoted to meat production. A huge percentage of our water is also devoted to meat production, and nearly 20% of greenhouse gas emissions, according to some estimates, is related to meat production. Now, although many of you are probably seeing a trend towards vegetarianism, what's happening in Lakeview and Wicker Park is not reflective of the global trend. In fact, the Indians and the Chinese are just beginning to develop their appetite for Big Macs and Chicken McNuggets. Meat consumption is expected to double, or more than double, in the next 30 years. Now, you hear a lot about peak oil, but what we're staring ahead at is peak meat. And, although many people think this idea of growing meat from a stem cell in a petri dish is crazy, given the situation ahead, I actually think we're crazy not to take a look at it. So, if the idea of eating a cultured beef burger, that's my preferred term, at a barbecue in 2035 is not appealing to you, let me give you another option. This is a plate of crickets. Now, insects have yuck factor numbers that pull even higher than a cultured beef burger. But not long ago, let me show you something that also was generally regarded as gross. The lobster. Yes, in the 1800s, the lobster was regarded as so disgusting by many Americans that there were actually laws that protected prisoners from lobster. You couldn't, in some states, you couldn't serve lobster to prisoners more than once a week. Obviously, attitudes have changed. It's perhaps one of our most revered delicacies. Now, this little guy is already regarded as a delicacy in many parts of the world. In parts of Mexico, like Oaxaca, grasshoppers are revered as a delicacy, while shrimp is considered disgusting. And here's a photo of Thailand, where there's a bevy of options from on the menu. In Latin America, the French fried ants in Venezuela, 80% of the world's countries eat insects. There are more than 1,400 varieties, many, many different flavors. And if what's happening in Thailand and Venezuela is too exotic for you, adventurous foodies here in the United States are already beginning to take an interest. In San Francisco, there's the Don Beguito food truck. In Washington, D.C., Jose Andres, who is a James Beard Award winner, has served a very popular grasshopper taco at his restaurant. In Los Angeles, apparently, insects are becoming a part of cocktails. But culinary opportunities is not the reason why these are part of my menu of the future. It's because they're a sustainable protein option. As the UN pointed out in a report last year, insects require a fraction of the land, a fraction of the water, and emit a minuscule amount of greenhouse gas emissions. Eating insects is a good way of getting protein that's good for the earth. Now, but everyone must clearly ask, so they're good for the planet, but are they good for you? And the answer to that is absolutely. They're high in protein, low in fat, low carb, great for an Atkins diet. They're packed with vitamins and minerals. It's part of the reason why the UN FAO was so excited about this as a protein alternative. And, idealistic folks in traditionally insect-eating countries are beginning to embrace the idea of entomophagy. Just last month, Bill Clinton awarded a near $1 million prize to the MBA students with the best idea. The idea, micro livestock. That's insect farming. Here, right, I have a power bar. There's a Kickstarter-funded power bar, which is coming out next week, and one of its major ingredients is ground cricket. This is another company that I just discovered, which is also a cricket power bar. There's a young man here in the audience from the University of Chicago who one of his entrepreneurial ideas is to de-shell insects like grasshoppers, Entom Foods, Matthew Krisloff. There are books coming out about how to insect cuisine. The Sierra Club just ran a piece, and I know Fast Company has also done some coverage of entrepreneurial insect ideas. So insects are coming, and edible insects are definitely coming. And I asked just to point back to this cultured beef burger. If mealworms and crickets and bee larvae is more plausible to you now after this 3-minute presentation, then this idea of an environmentally friendly, livestock-free, Google-funded hamburger, is it really that far-fetched that Sergey Brin could make this happen? Okay. So let's say you have no interest at all in a cultured beef burger, never will get beyond a fear factor reaction to these crickets. Let me give you one final option. This is salmon on a bed of yellow rice and an orange. Normal food, right? Well, the salmon has a gene from an eel, the orange has a gene from a pig, and the rice has a gene from corn. So it is frankenfood. But before you get so down on this meal, and intuitively, I know many people find it transgenics creepy, and certainly, as you can see from this image, science fiction has done a lot with transgenics. Jeff Goldblum in The Fly. But if you talk to molecular biologists, they are not that concerned about transgenics. To them, DNA is a universal code that all living things share. And as a scientist said in the New York Times last month, it's not where a gene comes from that matters, it's what a gene does. And if you do take that pig gene, particular pig gene, and you put it in this orange, it's not going to make it taste like bacon, but what it will do is it will inoculate it against citrus greening virus, which is threatening to destroy Florida's orange industry. And if you do take a corn gene and you put it in this rice, you'll get golden rice. And in rice, which will give it vitamin A, beta-carotene. Rice doesn't naturally have beta-carotene. And in huge parts of the world which are rice-dependent, there's a major problem with malnutrition. This vitamin-enhanced golden rice could help fight that. So, do I think that we're going to be drinking orange juice with a pig gene in 2035? Do I think people are going to hold the same view as that scientist? Maybe not. But what I do think is that the needle will move slowly forward. Instead of having this very simplistic binary view, this is bioengineered, this is not, I think that transgenics will score some points. Maybe it'll save some children from blindness. Maybe it will protect an industry. And like with so many new technologies, attitudes will evolve. And I think that what we'll start to begin to see is a more nuanced, selective view that looks at each modification individually. And it's something, and the so-called biotech 2.0 crops will begin to appear, which I discuss in a chapter in my book called The Culinary Potential of Frankenfood. I just want to conclude here with this is a fictional menu from my book, my fictional restaurant, Moby's. And as you'll see, there are a bunch of things here that I just discussed. There's a grasshopper taco, there's a affordable cultured beef burger. That's because there will be an eco-tax on the conventionally raised hamburger. There's a mimosa there, which has orange, possibly with a pig gene. And there's also, but you also see that there's some very familiar things. There's sweet potato fries, there's a organic, homegrown mescaline mix, a Revolution IPA. And the point of this is all to make the simple point that the food movement is going to evolve. The food movement needs to become less parochial. Local, organic, natural, reducing food waste, they're all great, but they need to be augmented by pursuing these moonshot ideas, these ideas that may be perceived as unnatural that can actually protect the natural.
I'm convinced.
Given the challenges ahead, all ideas, no pun intended, need to be on the table.
That's great. Thanks so much, Josh. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.